Andrew-Bayne House, guardian of the dead. Good evening. I'm Detective James Miller with the State Bureau of Investigation. For 32 years, I've documented America's most disturbing and unexplained phenomena. Tonight, I'll share a case from Montana that has perplexed investigators for generations. Case file: Montana, 1875, AB 7. Date of initial report: August 17, 1875. Status: unexplained. The Andrew-Bayne House. If you have a story, drop a comment below and subscribe to the channel. A Victorian mansion in Helena, Montana that stands as a testament to both architectural beauty and supernatural horror. What makes this case particularly fascinating is the consistency of reported phenomena across nearly 150 years. In 1875, Mary Bayne, wife of railroad tycoon William Bayne, died under mysterious circumstances in their newly constructed mansion. The official cause was listed as female hysteria leading to cardiac arrest, a convenient diagnosis of the time for anything doctors couldn't explain. But what followed her death began a pattern of inexplicable events that continue to this day. Let me take you through what we know. The Andrew-Bayne House was constructed between 1872 and 1874, during Helena's gold rush prosperity. William Bayne commissioned architect Thomas Andrews to design what would become one of Montana Territory's most impressive residences. A 3-story Victorian masterpiece with 27 rooms, copper finials, hand-carved banisters, and stained glass imported from Europe. The house still stands at 437 North Rodney Street, though the address has changed over the years. It's been a private residence, a boarding house, a museum, and currently serves as a bed and breakfast. Throughout all these iterations, one thing has remained constant: the protective presence of what many believe to be Mary Bayne. According to the original investigation conducted by Helena Sheriff Daniel McAllister in 1875, Mary Bayne was found dead in the master bedroom on August 15th. Her husband William had been away on business in San Francisco. The housekeeper, Eliza Crawford, discovered Mary's body arranged peacefully on the bed, hands folded across her chest, wearing her wedding dress. What made the scene unusual was the complete absence of signs of struggle, illness, or distress. Furthermore, Mary had been in perfect health according to Dr. James Holbrook, who had examined her just 3 days prior. More peculiar still was the presence of fresh lilacs arranged throughout the room. Mary's favorite flower, but out of season in August. The first documented supernatural occurrence came just 2 weeks after Mary's burial. William Bayne returned to the house to collect his belongings, intending to sell the property. According to his written statement, preserved in the Montana Historical Society archives, he experienced what he described as a profound and unnatural cold upon entering the master bedroom. I'll quote directly from his statement. "The air grew so frigid my breath appeared before me as if in deepest winter, though it was still August. The scent of lilacs filled the room, and I heard what I can only describe as Mary's voice whispering, 'This is my home.' When I announced my intention to sell the property aloud, every piece of glass in the room, windows, mirror, even Mary's perfume bottles, cracked simultaneously. William Bayne fled the house that night and never returned. He died 6 months later in a railroad accident near Butte. The property passed to William's brother, Charles Bayne, who attempted to sell it in 1876. 3 separate sales fell through under unusual circumstances. One prospective buyer, mining entrepreneur Hiram Watkins, suffered a broken leg when the grand staircase banister collapsed as he was inspecting the second floor. Another, Judge Reginald Potter, reported that his wife refused to enter after claiming to see a woman's face in every window watching them approach. By 1880, the house's reputation had become so problematic that Charles Bayne finally managed to sell it for a fraction of its value to the Andrew family, who converted it into a boarding house. This is where our documentation becomes particularly interesting. I have before me the collected statements from 17 different boarders who stayed at the Andrew House between 1880 and 1905. The consistency of their experiences is remarkable. 13 report hearing a woman humming in empty rooms. 11 describe finding fresh lilacs in their rooms despite the flowers being out of season. 9 claim to have seen a woman in a white dress standing at the end of hallways who would vanish when approached. Most tellingly, all 17 report the same phenomenon. Any attempt to damage or significantly alter the house structure was met with immediate intervention. Tools would disappear. Workers would feel pushed from ladders. In one documented case from 1887, carpenter Thomas Walsh was attempting to remove the original stained glass window from the main staircase landing when he reported feeling 2 hands firmly push him backward. He fell 15 feet but suffered only minor injuries, landing on what he described as something soft that wasn't there. When investigators arrived, they found Walsh shaken, but largely unharmed, surrounded by lilac petals on the hardwood floor. What makes this case stand apart from typical haunting reports is the selective nature of the phenomena. Those who respected the house and its history reported beneficial experiences. Elizabeth Carlyle, a widow who lived in the East Wing from 1892 to 1897, documented in her diary feeling a comforting presence during her stay. When her room caught fire from an overturned lamp in 1894, she awoke to find the fire already extinguished and a window open that she distinctly remembered closing. The Andrew family owned the property until 1927, when it was purchased by the Montana Historical Preservation Society. Their attempt to convert it into a museum provides our next significant documentation of unexplained events. Curator Harriet Maxwell kept meticulous records of disturbances during the renovation. Her journal, now preserved in the state archives, details 23 separate incidents where renovation work was mysteriously halted or undone. Most notably, when workers attempted to convert Mary Bayne's bedroom into a display for Gold Rush artifacts, they reported that the room would return to its original configuration overnight. Maxwell wrote on June 12, 1928, "For the third time, we've removed the 4-poster bed to storage, only to find it back in its precise original position this morning, made up with linens we do not own. The lilac scent is overwhelming. The workers refused to enter the room again." The museum operated until 1954, when financial difficulties forced its closure. During those 27 years, there were 34 documented incidents of visitors claiming to see a woman in period dress who wasn't part of the staff. Photographs from this era occasionally captured unexplained anomalies, most commonly a white mist on the main staircase, or a female figure in upper floor windows when the building was known to be empty. I have one such photograph in the case file, taken in 1937 by tourist Howard Phillips. The image shows the house exterior with what appears to be a woman in white Victorian dress, clearly visible in the 3rd floor window, despite the museum being closed that day for repairs. After the museum's closure, the property remained vacant until 1968, when developer Richard Thornton purchased it with plans to demolish the structure and build modern apartments. This triggered what is perhaps the most well-documented series of paranormal events in the house's history. According to police reports filed between May and August 1968, demolition equipment repeatedly malfunctioned on the property. A bulldozer operator reported that his machine shut down whenever he approached the house. The engine would restart only when he backed away. 2 workers were hospitalized after scaffolding collapsed, though engineers could find no structural failure to explain it. The most compelling evidence comes from local news footage shot on July 28, 1968. KRTV was documenting the controversial demolition when their cameras captured what appears to be all the doors and windows of the house simultaneously slamming shut as workers approached with equipment. The footage, which I've reviewed personally, shows no visible cause for this occurrence. No wind, no workers near the openings. The meteorological report for that day shows calm conditions. Thornton abandoned his plans in September 1968, citing structural issues making demolition unsafe. He sold the property at a significant loss to Elaine Baxter, a distant relative of the original Bayne family, who restored it as a private residence. This brings us to the modern era of documentation. Since 1970, the house has changed hands 4 times. Each owner has reported similar phenomena, protective rather than malevolent activity, centered around preserving the house's original features. Current owners Robert and Susan Kimball purchased the property in 2003 and converted it into a bed and breakfast that operates to this day. I personally interviewed the Kimballs in 2019 as part of my ongoing documentation of this case. Their experiences align remarkably with historical accounts spanning nearly 150 years. Susan Kimball stated, "We've come to think of Mary as the house's caretaker, not its haunter. Guests who appreciate the history and architecture have wonderful stays. Those who are disrespectful," she paused here, "well, they tend to have experiences that encourage them to leave." Robert Kimball showed me their guest logs, which contain numerous accounts of unexplained but non-threatening encounters. The most common reports include the scent of lilacs, the sound of humming from empty rooms, and glimpses of a woman in white who vanishes when approached. More tellingly, he shared security footage from 2017, showing an inebriated guest attempting to remove a piece of original woodwork as a souvenir. In the footage, the man suddenly jerks backward as if pulled, though no one else is visible in the frame. He then runs from the house in apparent terror. The woodwork in question remained undamaged. I need to be clear. I've investigated hundreds of alleged hauntings across America. Most have perfectly rational explanations: structural settling, carbon monoxide leaks, infrasound, or simply the power of suggestion. What makes the Andrew-Bayne House remarkable is the consistency of reported phenomena over such an extended period, often documented by credible witnesses with no knowledge of previous incidents. The house has been investigated by numerous paranormal research teams over the decades. In 2012, the Montana Paranormal Research Society conducted a 3-night investigation using contemporary equipment. Their findings include unexplained temperature drops of 15-20 degrees in specific rooms, audio recordings of what sound like a woman humming a period-appropriate melody, and multiple instances of equipment failure when attempting to document certain areas, particularly Mary Bayne's former bedroom. What are we to make of this case? Is the Andrew-Bayne House truly protected by its former mistress? The evidence, while compelling, remains inconclusive by scientific standards. My personal assessment, after reviewing 149 years of documentation, is that something unusual persists at 437 North Rodney Street. Whether it's the actual spirit of Mary Bayne or some other phenomenon entirely, the consistency of reports suggests we're dealing with more than mere folklore or suggestion. Perhaps most interesting is what this case suggests about the nature of hauntings themselves. Unlike the malevolent entities reported in many cases, The presence at the Andrew-Bayne House appears motivated by preservation rather than fear. Mary Bayne, if it is indeed her, seems less concerned with scaring away the living than with protecting what she loved in life: her home. Personal notes. Having visited the property twice myself, I can attest to the unusual atmosphere. While I experienced nothing overtly supernatural, the distinctive scent of lilacs persisted throughout the house despite no such flowers being present. Owner Susan Kimball mentioned that fresh lilacs appear occasionally in Mary's former bedroom, even in winter months. I remain skeptical but acknowledge the extraordinary consistency of reports across generations makes this case difficult to dismiss. Evidence log. Original 1875. Death investigation documents, Montana Historical Society. William Bayne's written statement regarding August 30, 1875 incident. Collected testimonies from Andrew House boarders, 1880-1905. Elizabeth Carlyle's diary, 1892-1897. Harriet Maxwell's Curator Journal, 1927-1931. Howard Phillips photograph, 1937. KRTV news footage, July 28, 1968. Montana Paranormal Research Society findings, 2012. Security footage from Kimball ownership, 2017. Personal interviews with current owners, 2019. Case status. Update. The Andrew-Bayne House continues to operate as a bed and breakfast. Reports of unusual phenomena persist, but remain non-threatening in nature. While scientific evidence of paranormal activity remains inconclusive, the historical pattern suggests this location will continue to generate reports consistent with its long-established phenomena. I recommend continued documentation of new incidents as they occur. This is Detective James Miller signing off. Remember, sometimes the most enduring mysteries are those that challenge our understanding of what binds the dead to the places they once loved.